drawing, a little bit of painting, a little bit of both, but a lot of drawing, which is what we're going to be learning in this class. So just a little bit about myself and how I started drawing. I mean, it was always something that I was interested in since I was little, something that I always actively pursued. But where I really learned how to draw, you know, technically and classically is in my high school years. I went to SOTA, School of the Arts. If you guys are in the Bay, you might be familiar with it. So I intensely studied drawing there, and then continued to learn more about fine art in college. And here I am, thankfully still doing that. And, you know, before we really get into anything too deep, I just really want you guys to take this as like an exploration and learning activity. You know, it's easy to get frustrated when you're learning something new, especially something that like has so much technical stuff involved. But you know, the reason I really wanted to bring this to everybody is because drawing is so healing. And I just want you guys to sort of focus on that aspect of it, especially in this time where a lot of stuff seems, you know, strange and uncertain, but you know, what's always really comforting to me is that you could find healing in art. And yeah, so we're going to be learning about drawing. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about just kind of what drawing is, you know, which seems silly to talk about, but when you really think about it, drawing is pretty much the study of how you see things, and how, you know, understanding like how we perceive the world and assign meaning, how we categorize things visually. And when you start to think about it that way, it makes a lot more sense. So I'm sure you guys all have different levels of drawing experience and have had, you know, different ways of learning how to draw, whether it's like self-taught or like a teacher has taught you. But I want you guys to try to like abandon all of that and just imagine that you've never drawn before, you don't know anything about drawing. We're just going to start from square one, which might seem a little boring at first, but it's really crucial to understand the sort of like basic principles of art and drawing before you make like a big masterpiece. Yeah, so just to kind of give you guys a framework of what we're doing. The class or these courses that we're doing are kind of going to focus on the different elements of art, which don't only apply to drawing. This could apply to any kind of art, even if it's not visual, like, you know, music, writing, film. I guess film is visual. Anyways, it can apply to really any type of composition. So there's a couple different main elements we're going to focus on. That is line, value, shape, form, space, color, and texture. And so I'm going to kind of incorporate different principles of this throughout the different lessons I give you guys. But I think it's super interesting that it crosses all these disciplines. And so, you know, I actually don't think I know most of you on here. So I thought it would be kind of cool to start off with like a little introduction of who you are and what kind of, you know, what kind of ways you express your art or creativity. And so what I'm going to ask you guys to do right now is find an object in your room or in your house that sort of symbolizes to you what that means. So something that like represents your creativity or your art practice or something you're inspired by, okay? So it doesn't have to be anything crazy, like it could be a photograph, it could be a vinyl, it could be, you know, a tool that you use. So I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes to find something, and then I want you guys to take a photo of it if you can with your phone, and send it to this chat that we're in. Okay. Oh wait, this is private, sorry. Also forgive me, I'm still very much learning how to use this app. But yeah, if you guys could all send it to the group chat. I'm gonna give you guys like 5 minutes to do that, okay? And if you don't have a photo, like a photo taking device or anything, you can also just type in the chat like your name, and you can just say something like, you know, for example, I am a writer or I'm a photographer or something like that, okay? So it's 4:10. At 4:15, we'll regroup and share what we got, okay? Also, if you guys have any questions about that process, just let me know. If you guys are familiar with like wood blocks or lino cuts, this is the tool we use to carve stuff out of. Yeah, that's like my main art practice, and I wanted to share that with you. So cool. There's so many different types of artists here. How special. Nice. Another skater. Very cool. Also, guys, one more thing I wanted to say. If anyone, I mean, if anybody has a language barrier, like if you don't understand what I'm saying, just let me know. I also speak Spanish, so if anyone needs Spanish translation, just let me know. Okay, want to put that out there. All right, I'm gonna give folks 1 more minute, and if not, you still feel free to send it over while we're continuing the lesson. This is really cool. It's hard to kind of have class in this way, but this helps me sort of get to know everybody who's in the virtual room. So thank you guys for sharing with me. Okay, so I think we're just gonna continue on again. Thank you guys. So I know today we had said we were going to talk about value, but I think what's even more important to go back to is line. So it's the basic foundation of drawing. It's super important. So we're going to start off by kind of talking about what lines are and what they mean for us, and also how they are seen in our drawings and how they evoke different things. Let's see what Emmett said. Nice, awesome, Emmett, thank you. Cool. So lines are really interesting because if you really think about it, they don't necessarily exist. This is sort of something that our eyes create. But lines really help us sort of define things. As humans, we're always like wanting to sort of categorize things. We're constantly assessing things, to see what they are, how they function, and whatnot. So lines really provide us with definition of form. If you think about it, like without a line, how is a mass really necessarily contained? Lines sort of provide closure, and what's really important about them is that they guide our eyes throughout what's called a composition, which is how things are set up in a space. We're going to be learning a couple words today, so if you need me to define anything or like say something again, just let me know. And so, essentially lines give us structure. And there's so many different kinds of lines in the world. There's straight lines, there's curved lines, there's thick ones, thin ones, long lines, short lines, really such a huge variety of how we can create a line. And so the kind of focus of today's lesson is going to be how, kind of learning about different types of lines, and how we can convey different emotions and experiences through a very, very simple thing. So to start off, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some different kinds of lines, okay? I'm going to demonstrate with a ruler. So kind of a very basic, simple line is a horizontal line. And the types of lines or types of like feelings that horizontal lines evoke are that of like balance and harmony. Horizontal lines are parallel to the earth. So, they're in the same direction as like the surface of the earth technically, or like relative to us. I know the earth is round, but relative to where we're standing. And so, that automatically creates a feeling of groundedness and peace and equilibrium. So, if you see a lot of like classic paintings or classic structures, like you'll find this element of harmony and balance, and that usually collides with like something being symmetric. And then, so horizontal lines are generally still as well, so they're at rest. There isn't much tension in a horizontal line. And then you have vertical lines, which are the opposite. So a vertical line is perpendicular to the surface of the earth, which means it's at a 90-degree angle. And vertical lines are kind of evocative of like height, because it's extending upwards towards the sky, and that has all types of metaphorical power in it, you know, literally power rising, being above something. So, you know, those are kind of the things that we think about when you're talking about a vertical line. And then it's also pretty, I mean, it's not necessarily as still as a horizontal line, because it has, you know, at that point when it's standing up, it has the potential to come down, but it's pretty stable and creates feelings of stability. But then you have a diagonal line, which is usually symbolic of movement and dynamism, because it's not at rest. If you really think about it, this shape, or yeah, this shape sort of creates the illusion that something is either falling or in movement, like in flux. So, you know, one thing that my teachers always told me was, you know, to have a lot of diagonal lines, or like, you know, things sort of going in that type of direction to create like an, you know, excitement and like something interesting in your pieces. So I always thought that was really interesting, that it alludes to motion, which I never really thought about. And then you have curves. You know, and everything we've talked about so far has been a straight line, but curves are obviously not straight. But curves are definitely super symbolic of like humans and like more biological things. So when you see a curved line, you're thinking more of something soft, something more gentle, than something geometric. So like, you know, you think of like organic things and flesh and, you know, kind of a less rigid structure. And then there's like the whole world of line density. So you can create so many different types of lines. Just gonna draw something out for you. Not anything very exciting, but you can have like a very thin line versus a much thicker line. Okay. And next lesson we'll go into more of like, you know, how to create value with line and whatnot. But even in just like the different like singular lines you make, there's so much information that can be communicated in that. You know, thin is, you know, sort of more associated with like fragility and kind of like delicateness, and like a thick line is like, you know, heavy. You know, there's so many things that are being referenced to in just like a very simple mark of your pen or pencil. And then there's also like, you know, allusions to like time. You know, if you have like a really long line, that creates a totally different effect than if you have a tiny line. Or there's also broken lines as well. So there's really just endless types of lines you can create. I know this seems like a little elementary, but it's really important that we, you know, kind of discuss like how your like very simple visual marks are creating this feeling in your work. So given that, we're gonna do an activity, okay? So what you need, I'm gonna sort of show you guys what you need right now, okay? First and foremost, you need a pencil or a pen or a marker, really anything that you have as a writing utensil. you might need an eraser if that's possible. You're gonna need a piece of paper. I just use printer paper that I folded in half. But really whatever is at your disposal, it doesn't have to be the same size as printer paper. It could be just like a notebook, really whatever you have, but just know that we're gonna make 2 drawings, okay? And then what would be helpful also is a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you can use a book or just like anything that has a straight edge on it. And I think that's about it. So I'm gonna give you guys a little break and also just like 10 minutes to get those materials, okay? So it's 4:30 now, and we'll regroup at 4:40, okay? And like when we take breaks, you guys can also like, I know most of you are muted. I think you're all muted and you all don't have a camera, so never mind. But anyways, yes, we'll regroup at 4:40. And just let me know if you have any questions in the chat and I'll get back to you, okay? All right. Let me know if anybody wasn't able to get what they need, or if you have any questions about supplies. What's this new message? Okay. All right, so I'm going to explain this first, this next activity. So we're going to be making 2 drawings. The kind of intention of this activity is to learn about 2 things, or I guess a little bit more than that. But one really important thing is just exploring like the different kind of lines that you can make. But more than that is kind of like how you can connect like your emotional and physiological responses to something that you're hearing to basically how you create something. So that, and then we're also going to be learning a little bit about composition, a word I used earlier, which is basically how you arrange stuff on a page. And it's not only on a page, it could be, you know, in space, like in your room, anywhere really, just an arrangement of things, and how like where you place something kind of affects the feeling that it gives off. So it's gonna be a fun activity, I think. So what I'm gonna have you guys do is first take your paper and fold it in half if you haven't yet, so that it's 2 sides. I messed up. Don't mind the other lines. Just 2 pieces, or you could have 2 pieces of paper. It's totally up to you. The reason for this is, you know, just to be able to like look at them side to side and see the difference. Okay. That's really the only prep work you need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys, or share with you guys 2 different songs. Okay. We're going to play each song its whole length, and while it's playing, I really want you guys to pay attention to what you're feeling for each song, like what thoughts are going through your head. Is this giving you anxiety, or is this calming you? Is this like making you feel a certain type of way? And I want you guys to try to channel that into what you're drawing, okay? When you're drawing, I want you guys to try to stay away from drawing like any like tangible thing. And what I mean by that is like not necessarily drawing like objects or like, you know, anything super realistic, but just kind of exploring different types of lines. And so kind of like what I was telling you, know, the different types of lines that I was telling you about earlier, like horizontal, vertical, diagonal, etc. And you can use that knowledge that I taught you today, or you could just, you know, do it more intuitively. That's kind of like the main word of this whole project, intuitively. I just want you guys to feel and express it on your paper, okay? So you're gonna do one drawing correspondent to each song, okay? If you don't feel comfortable for any reason, that's that's totally fine. You can turn off the sound. I totally understand. Also, if you have any questions, just let me know. Any questions? Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing the screen with you guys, okay? So I'm gonna play one full song. And so you will draw throughout that, and then I'll stop it, and then I'll play the next one, okay? And after we play 2 songs, we'll regroup and go from there, okay? So bear with me, I'm going to try to figure out this screen sharing thing. Desktop. Okay. Oh, okay, so did that not work? Did anyone hear that? Okay, hold on. Did anybody hear that, you guys?
Not really, but I think if you stop sharing your screen and then start again, you should have the option to share computer audio.
Okay, redo. Okay, guys, we're gonna try that again. Wait a minute. It's telling me I have to install an audio device. Does that take a long time?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm gonna try again. Please let me know if you guys can hear it, okay? So again, just kind of like draw your feelings, like respond, like, you know, what you think of and feel when you hear this song. And it's like kind of a short song, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time after to complete it if you need to. But please let me know if you can't hear it, okay? Let me try this again. Okay, so I'll give you guys until like 4:55 to finish up. Anything for me to finish up, and then I'm gonna play the next video, okay? Does anyone have any questions? I'm just gonna show you what I did as an example of like, you know, it could literally, you know, just be lines, no high standards for this, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to play the next song. Okay, I'll give you guys 2 more minutes for that too. if you guys are ready, or like you're finished with your drawings, it would be really cool if you could take a photo of it and send it to the group chat, or if you feel comfortable to, just like hold it up right here in the camera if you want. But you don't have to share what you made at all either. I think it would just be really cool to see how you guys interpreted that. Oh, let me see. Nice. Thank you, Audrey. Thanks, Amelia. Emmy. Oh, so cool. Thank you guys. Nice, like the outburst. Very cool. Fanola in her classic green. Nice. Nice. I'll share mine. I did. Cool. So I kind of want to start off by talking about each song. So really down to the core of it, what did you guys feel when you heard the first song? Or like, what are some emotions or like responses that you had hearing that first song? You guys can you can speak also. You can speak, or if you prefer not to, you can put it in the chat. The first song? The Bad Brains song. Yes, the House of Suffering one. You felt calm. Okay. All right. If you guys are muted, you can unmute yourself to say the just like words. But if not, you can just write it in the chat. Tense. Okay, yeah. When I heard that song, even though I do like that group, Intense, yeah, I kind of feel like my chest tightening. Crazy. Yeah, it's sort of like it's like almost physical, you know, if you really pay attention to it, you're like, you know, you kind of like, yeah, physically tense up. Restless, crazy. The first song had higher energy, the last song was more relaxed, maybe feel more calm. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So I think we could all agree the first song was like a lot, a lot, even though, you know, like it's cool, but it definitely creates like that effect. What kind of marks, what kind of marks and types of lines did you feel inclined to make while you were listening to that? For the first one, you made curvy lines, wave-like ones, jagged. Mm-hmm. Yeah. First one, I made more jagged crossing lines, lots of dark, wider lines, zigzag scratches. Yeah, I can relate. For the first one, I just really felt an urge to like almost scribble, you know, just kind of like not stop moving. I don't know if anyone else noticed this either, but I kind of felt like I made the first drawing a lot quicker. Like it was just like kind of like I felt like I had to do something. Flowers and water, yeah. Yeah, definitely. A song gave me a more calm vibe, and I thought of flowers and water. So I did more curvy lines. The first one was more harsh, darker lines. Yeah. Yeah, I felt the urge to like really press down on my pencil. Yeah. What are some words you could describe the first song with? I guess we kind of went over that. Chaotic. Yeah, chaotic, exciting. Aggressive, angry. Mm-hmm. Aggro, yeah. Yeah, so these words are all very valid. And what I think is so interesting is that like these same words that you're describing sounds are the same words of the lines that you made. And so, we can also, that also applies to the second song in which, a couple people have said that it's like a lot more calming and relaxing, or kind of, strong. The second song definitely created more of an atmosphere of like peace and just kind of like unwinding. Um, and the reason I chose those two songs were because that's kind of like in my personal experience, like the two things I've been feeling during this whole experience. But there's lots of really cool things about this activity, but I think like a really good takeaway is that you can really, like when you're feeling a certain way, art is what makes it possible to translate those feelings into something tangible and like kind of express that out into something outside of you. And it really helps you like be present, and just kind of, get out of your own head. And yeah, so, that's also a good way to kind of see how like your lines, and not just your lines, but your, visual decisions in general affect the impact of a piece. Does anyone have any like questions or any takeaways from that, like that little activity we just did? I know it's like kind of like elementary school, but I promise that this first step is really important. Having like a strong idea about line is like very crucial to drawing. And so as we go on to the other classes, we're going to be advancing a lot more and doing some more challenging stuff. But I did want to leave you guys with an optional assignment, like just an activity for you guys to sort of work on your own time between now and the next session. Like I said, this activity is like really good in thinking about composition and how you guys like lay things out on a page. Because this one was timed, it was like, less thinking and more kind of like fluidity and more kind of like impulsive marks. But with this, you'll have like a lot more time to sort of think about things. So, if you find yourself looking for something to do, or if you want to practice your line making a little bit, you can just take another piece of paper and fold it into one half, fold it again and then fold it one last time so that you have 8 sections, okay? And so I thought of 8 different words that you can kind of work with. And I'm gonna write them in the chat too so that you can see them, and you know, we'll work on that later. But the words I picked out were fear, peace, anger, solitude, excitement, fatigue, awe, and compassion. You know, so you guys can kind of do the same activity while you're, you know, drawing out your, you know, your small line composition. And, you know, if you feel compelled to listen to music while you do it, feel free, but you don't have to. So I'm gonna just write these words out here so you guys can have them. Also, like, please feel free to share your emails with me in this chat, because I have like lots of resources I could send you guys. I have like worksheets for kind of what I talked about earlier today. So if you want to like have more of a reference to like definitions and stuff like that, I can definitely give you that. Excitement. So there are the 8 words. Yeah, so when you guys are doing this, you know, just kind of think about like how are you creating balance or like imbalance, tension, you know, the feeling of something like being dynamic or still, you know, just kind of like how are these like very, very basic marks that I'm making contributing to a larger feeling. Okay. So yeah, that's all that we have got for today. But just a little preview for next class. We're gonna continue the line a little bit, but in a more advanced way next class, and sort of start delving into value. Okay, so a little bit more complex than what we did today. Okay. So I'll give everybody a little bit longer to sort of send me your emails or any questions or anything that you have. But if not, thank you so much for coming. You know, please come back. Class will be every Tuesday at 4. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Please take care of yourselves and, you know, keep making stuff, prioritize your well-being, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
For anyone who's still here, I'm just curious to know how you all found out about this class, since we're trying to share it with a broader group of people. So if you can in the chat, just say how you heard about it. That would be super helpful, so that we can share Alyssa's classes with more people.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you. I will see you next time.